So the big question is this: how do most agents who don't have access to the secrets that the top agents in our industry hoard to themselves grow and prosper in today's real estate environment? That's the question. And this video podcast is the answer. I'm Pat Hyben, and welcome to Real Estate Rockstars. And now for the review of the day.
Okay, Angie Shoup gave us a 5-star review. She said, great podcast. Pat is a fantastic interviewer and knows the best questions to ask his agents. I've learned so much from listening. Thank you, Angie.
Keep the comments coming, guys. I love them. And remember, I eat feedback for breakfast. So give me a 1-star review if you want, or a 5-star review if you want. I don't care. And the more reviews we get, the better guests we get. So please, subscribe first and then leave us a review or wherever you're listening.
Rockstar Nation, thanks so much for listening. Don't forget to stay to the end, where our guests will be offering a free gift. As you know, all of our guests offer a free gift, and all of these gifts can be found on the Agent Success Toolbox. You could find that by going to hybendigital.com/toolbox, or simply texting the word toolbox to 444-999. That's toolbox to 444-999. I am going to put today's free gift in today's show notes, but if you want all of them, including gifts from most of our guests that have come on the show, just go to the Agent Success Toolbox.
All right, Rockstar Nation, I got a returning guest today, and this guy is crushing it big time, and it's been over 500 episodes since he's been on last. If you missed him first time around, episode 344, just absolutely great guy and great person to learn from. And I asked him to come on specifically to talk about something today, because a lot of you guys have been asking, like, you know, what is really different in some of the other countries, especially Canada, when we're selling, you know, real estate, and you know, how does Canada compare to the U.S.? And so we're going to get into some nitty gritty with that, among many other things. So without further ado, Courtney Atkinson from Atkinson Realty is back. Courtney, welcome back to Real Estate Rockstars.
Pat, I want to tell you, I've listened to every single one of those episodes since my last one, man. Well done. I love this show.
Awesome, man. Thanks so much. All right. So why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself, Courtney, so they get to know you better.
All right, man. I'm married to this really awesome gal. Her name's Melanie, and we got these 2 kids that keep us busy, and it's been one of the greatest blessings, Pat, because it's got me to be super efficient. I think if I can attribute anything to those little guys, it's the fact that, man, I've really cut down on my time at work, and I'm getting more done. I have a real estate team. I guess a lot of people call them teamerages. There's a couple independent agents, but we're partnered on a few different things. So my team operates together in the residential space. There's 15 agents in my Lethbridge office, Lethbridge, Alberta. We have 5 agents in our Medicine Hat office, and then we've got about 3 independent agents in Lethbridge, and I partner with them on commercial and property management and a little bit of ag as well. Ag's big here because we live on the prairies in southern Alberta. We're just north of the Montana border, and there's lots of bald ass prairie, man, and lots of farms to be sold, and so we got to have a specialist in that area too. So we just love what we do, man. We have some fun.
And we're talking Alberta, Canada.
Yes, sir. Alberta, Canada. We're kind of like the place in Canada that you know, rides horses and wears jeans and doesn't dare show up to a meeting in a suit.
Wow. And so, like, how far out, you mentioned like 5 different areas, like how far out are these areas? Like, what would you say, how far out do you go to do business?
Yeah, so not super far, Pat. I mean, we would drive maybe, you know, an hour to an hour and a half for business. I mean, I took a listing at this place called Lake Newell. It's like a resort community about 2 hours away from Lethbridge. And if you consider my Lethbridge and Medicine Hat office, it's kind of like a 2-hour drive from either one of them. That'd be about as far as we would go. You know, we're 2 hours north of the Montana border, and then we're 2 hours south of Calgary, Alberta, if you've heard of the Calgary Stampede. That's near where we're at. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, cool. So let's get some nitty gritty. So like how many houses, I'll say you or your team or Ridge, or however you want to do this. Like, what would you
Sure.
say? Yeah.
Well, let's focus on team, because I think I know a lot of your listeners, Pat, at least folks that really appreciate and value all the content you bring. Most of them are team owners, and so yeah, as a team, we'll be in the 300s this year, probably like 330, somewhere in that range. That doesn't put us past 100 million for volume, but it puts us pretty close. So we're in striking distance of that kind of threshold. We're pretty stoked on that. Yeah.
So your average sale price is what, like 300?
Yeah, a little bit less than that.
320?
Yeah, like 285, 290, somewhere in there.
Okay. And what is your ECI on that? Your ego commission income? What are your total commissions of your team add up to?
Oh man, I should know that, shouldn't I? Total commissions. I mean, straight up, it's easy to calculate that, right? I mean, it's say $90 million worth of business, and average commission in Canada. This is one of the things we're going to talk about, right? Is going to be 2% a side, right? More or less. I mean, you can do the math on that. What's that? A couple $1 million, or I don't know.
1.8 million.
1.8, yeah, somewhere in there. Yeah.
Okay. So, and do you know what your profit margin is?
Yeah, I mean, we're not where we'd like to be. I mean, Gary Keller wants us at 30%, 35%, but we're probably closer to 20, a little bit under that. Yeah, definitely under that. Yeah.
Yeah, 20% at one point, but you're still pulling in 300, which is 320, which is good. I mean, it's very hard, I think, for large teams to, and I think that what you're referring to, millionaire real estate agents, I think it's closer to 50, but certainly they are doing an update to that version, which they need to, because most of the teams that come on the show, they're more like 20. If you got a large team and you're leveraged, you're more like 20%. And 20% is a good profit if you compare it to other businesses, right? You look at a builder or whatever, they're trying to make 5 to 10% per house. You know what I mean? So,
one of the things that I learned just this year, and I'm embarrassed to say that it took me almost a decade, but it seems that there's a bit of a disparity in terms of how American teams versus Canadian teams actually measure their net income. So I take a fairly hefty salary out of the company, and those numbers are post my salary, right?
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. Well, that could. Yeah.
So that might inflate those numbers a little bit. So you're not really comparing apples to apples. So
no. So what would that be? Like, what's your salary?
Oh, my wife and I just take whatever the cap is for our income threshold. So I think in total it's like 200, something like that. So maybe we're netting like.
What's that mean?
Well, so there's, dude, our taxing here is terrible. Don't even get me started on the Canadian taxation system compared to what y'all are dealing with down there in the land.
Yeah, because in the U.S., right? Like if I took a salary, and I've done this for decades, if I took a salary of 100 grand out of my team business, and then I took a distributions of 100 grand, I'm essentially taxed the same on most corporate LLC, C corp. I'm taxed the same. S corp, I save a little bit of Social Security, but I you do save Social Security, but it's only like I don't know what the fuck it is. It's like 5 to 10% or something. But anyways, you don't save a lot. So why would you do that? Why would you? And that's a high. Usually teams that come on this show take a very low salary, right? Like $5 grand a month. And then the rest, they just do distributions.
And so in Canada, we have a liberal government, so that'd be kind of like similar to what y'all had with Obama, right? And one of the first things that they did was they changed the way that dividends were taxed. Okay, so it used to be that I did just exactly what you said. I would take a low salary and then I would pull out dividends in the company because they'd be taxed at such a lower rate, right? And the government said, no, we don't like the way that small business owners are getting away with this. We're essentially going to level the playing field. Whether you take salary or whether you take dividends, we're going to tax it the same. The only reason that I've chosen to take it as salary is because then you get to have what we call CPP, which is your Canada pension plan. So you catch a couple $100 a month when you hit 60 or whatever. That works out to the math is sufficient enough that it makes sense. You could also get EI, not like it really matters to somebody like me. And you also get, then primarily the reason you would do this is because of your RRSP. So that's the Registered Retirement Savings Plan, which is like, what is it called in the States? Your
Social Security.
No. Your company, what's the thing that your company contributes to your retirement savings plan? It's like there's a number, it's a number like a 103.
IRA or,
maybe an IRA, something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah. So basically like I can stack money in this RRSP and the limit grows each year, right? Because I'm taking this income as a salary, and that RSP limit grows, and then now I'm able to put money in there tax free. It
And that's
grows.
tax free, and it grows tax free. So, so you could do that. The more salary you take, the more you could put in.
It gets capped, and I've stopped my salary out where it caps essentially. And so,
Where does
you know,
it cap? Just curious. Where's it?
caps at 90, I think 90 grand a year. So my wife
Holy
and I,
dirt.
yeah, my wife and I think we pull out, I think 250 from the company, and then that nets us, like 10 grand a month or something like that.
Dude, that's insane. I mean, $90,000 a year tax free to save for retirement. You
Oh,
know
no,
what?
no, you misheard me. So our income would be,
Yeah.
say, like 180 grand, and then
Yeah.
we pull some more dividends. Okay. But of that 180 grand, it doesn't grow in direct correlation, say,
Like, how much
maybe
can you put away? Like, how much
my,
in a given year?
I
How
think
much can
I
you put
think
away?
on 90 grand, I think it gives you like probably like 10%. So it probably grows by 9 grand, or maybe it's 15 grand or something every year. It's not a huge amount, but still, there's the benefit there of just stacking away 10 or 15,000 bucks. For a couple, it works out to more like 20-25 grand a year tax free, right?
In the U.S., it's six.
Okay. Yeah.
$6,000. I mean, now if you have if you set up a company and you have employees and you're paying them payroll systems, not independent contractors, and you're doing all that, you can give more, but then you got to give your employees more too. And so most realtors do, the six. That's it. 6 grand a year. Boom, you're finished.
Right.
And so it's definitely more, and I think that really sucks, how we do it in the States. I think that, because I know that a lot of older people, and I've seen this firsthand, are broke, right? And I'm seeing it more and more. And, so it would make sense. Why would they limit it to 6,000? Why not let me put 30,000? Why not let people put, whatever they want to, tax free in a retirement that they're not going to use, because it's going to save the government money from having to support them. And as a whole, our community won't, our elderly won't be so out of money, which it's happening more and more now.
Yeah, I think the general philosophy is that, if you save money here, then you can save it over there. And that's kind of what you're suggesting, right? But I mean, our society now is so short-sighted, man. I mean, everybody's like, no, like, you can't increase my tax 0.5%, or you can't take this thing away, man, because y'all, that's one of the primary differences between Canada and the States is that, take the price of cigarettes. Like, a carton of cigarettes in the States, I don't know, what would it be, like $40, $50, something like that. A carton of cigarettes in Canada, I mean, they're like $20 a pack. So do the math. Like, I don't know, is it $400 or $350? I mean, it's tons, right? And where does that money go? It goes to healthcare. It's like, hey, we're taxing stuff so people don't use it. Same with alcohol is the reason it's so much more expensive here. They just tax the hell out of stuff that's bad for you. And then, with all those things, you can do things like provide free healthcare. You can provide better social security. You can provide free education. And then with those things, with free education, you have a more educated society, a healthier society, people making better choices and less long-term costs ultimately on your society. But in order to do that, you have to have slightly higher tax thresholds, right?
Of course. And
yeah.
College is free?
No, there's a lot more grants, and I mean, there's substantially subsidized. So how about this? Like, I did an MBA at a respected school in Canada. My tuition each year at that time was under $5,000 a year.
Wow.
Yeah, and so I mean, a similar school in the States would easily charge $50,000 a year, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and it's easy to get loans, of course. I mean, the
of course. You're getting a loan for $5,000. I mean, instead of 150, some of these kids.
Well, this is one of the frustrations, right? I mean, I hear, so much now. For me, I hear so many people that are anti-education, and I listen, man, I get it. Like, do you want your kid to go to school to get a BA in English and history like I have and come out of school with $200,000 in debt? Like, that is insane, man. Because I'll tell you what, having done it, I can tell you that you don't come out with a whole bunch of job offers. But I came out with no student debt, an education, and kind of the freedom to choose some different career paths. And I did that not under duress and not under the looming debt load that a lot of my American peers would have. And so it's just a much different choice. And so I'm not anti-education at all, because shit, in Canada, man, it's like, go do it. Spend 4 years growing up, learn how to write a paper, learn how to communicate, and then go get a job, provide some value. No big deal, because I don't have a $200,000 debt load with that privilege, right?
No, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I mean, I see this debate all the time, and you know, if you know, yes, you know, I have a degree in sociology, and I it didn't get me anything, but what it did get me is number one, like you said, learning how to write, more than just writing, learning how to meet deadlines. That's what one of the things I learned in college, right? How to work hard and bust my ass under a deadline, which is a crucial skill if you want to hustle and you want to work, right? Yeah. The second thing is, obviously, and it sounds funny, but socialization skills are massive, right? You know, that you learn in college, tons of socialization skills.
Do you drink a lot of beer in college, Pat?
Oh yeah, every night.
Yeah, man. Right.
But it taught me how to socialize.
Sure it did. Yeah, you use those skills right now, man. Right. This is why you're such a good conversation.
That's right. That's right. But yeah, and that's what it teaches you. And the third thing that I think it really does is it gives you this sort of mental confidence that most people don't have, that you are entitled to a better job. You know, there's probably about 2% of the population that could fail out of high school and think in their mind, I'm entitled to be a billionaire and make it. You know what I mean? Just go into sales or go into something and kick ass and not feel like, oh shit, I got to be a bartender. You know, when people graduate college, they come out of there thinking, you know, if I become a bartender, I'm taking a step backwards. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go into a profession. Does this make sense?
Right. Yeah, it makes perfect sense to me. And the one other thing that I'll add to that I think has probably served you, and I know it served me, it didn't really occur to me, Pat, until I was reading this book. Have you read the book called Deep Work?
I've heard about it, but didn't read it.
Yeah, it's a good book, and I'm only like halfway in it. But I mean, essentially, it's like those are the kind of skills that you learn when you're in school like that. I mean, you got to stay focused, right? It's one thing to like make the decision, hey, I'm going to do this thing. It's another decision to apply. It's another decision to get your loan, then to go and show up for a semester. But then you got to show up for exams, and then you got to show up for classes, a lot of which are boring, and you got to do that every year for say 4 years, right? I mean. And then in the middle of all that, you got to go deep on, you know, say 4 subjects a semester, 5 subjects a semester. Like that's the kind of intellectual work that I think our society is actually starving from. I mean, so much of what we do now is just chasing the next rabbit. You know, I'm going to check my email, I'm going to check my Instagram, shoot a selfie, and then take a call from a client, and then go, you know, do whatever. And so little of what we do now is, you know, dedicated, focused work on one task for a long period of time. And I think that's been one of the things that I think's really helped me in my career. And I was actually, you know, planning to come to the conversation today with that information, was that, you know what, my ability to sit down and say, hey, listen, like doors shut, I got like an hour right now, and I'm going to be deadly focused on this one thing that I want to have an absolutely perfectly clear plan on. And then I know who to talk to and how to execute on it, right? And it's that ability to think and then to go ahead and execute that I think we're starved so much from these days.
Tribeofmillionaires.com. Guys, write that down. Rockstar Nation got a free special offer for you. Now, I've just written a book, and it's just been published. Co-authored it with David Osborne, who's been on this show multiple times. If you don't know David, he is one of the top execs at Keller Williams Real Estate, was personally mentored for the last 2 decades by Gary Keller himself, and he's in all kinds of businesses. His bio and explanation and everything is in this book. But anyways, David and I got together. We decided to write a book. We called it Tribe of Millionaires. And I guarantee you it's going to change your life. To find out more, just go to tribeofmillionaires.com. We're going to give it to you absolutely free. Only thing we ask in return is, of course, number one, you pay the shipping. Not a big deal. But number two, that you go on Amazon and write us a review. We're really looking to get an incredible amount of reviews. And because of that, we're giving this book away for free. Go to tribeofmillionaires.com today. Hey, real estate agents and rock stars. If you're getting value out of the content in this episode, make sure you like the video and subscribe to this channel. Also, click the little bell icon to be notified about upcoming episodes. And I would also love it if you left a comment. and shared the most impactful tips and tactics you've learned from the knowledge shared in this episode, or even maybe make a suggestion requesting a topic of what you'd like to learn in future episodes. I welcome any feedback below. Now, back to the episode. Yeah, good stuff. Okay, so let's talk about the real estate transaction, because a lot of people want to know, like, what is the big difference? So I want to take it from the beginning, right?
Yep.
With buyers. First of all, buyers, how's your MLS work? How's, all that work? How do buyers find houses?
Yeah, so I mean, in Canada, we don't have, the pervasive access of Zillow. I mean, everybody kind of accepts Zillow as one of the best search engines. Canada's very fortunate. We're regionally distributed, right? So I mean, there's a city here, city here, city here, kind of separated by often hundreds of kilometers or hundreds of miles. And so I can't say who to thank, but somewhere early on, somebody got together and connected all of those MLSs across the entire country without exception to realtor.ca. So for most people, they're going to go to this one place and they're going to buy property. And that's kind of always been the way that it is. And that tool functions really.
Wait a minute. Let me slow it down. So is this a universal MLS system, or is this like a realtor.com? Is it just a website?
Yeah, so my understanding of realtor.com is that not every MLS participates. Is that correct?
I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure everybody's in there. Like, you can choose, I think, not to put it in there, but you have to check certain boxes and stuff. So pretty much everyone puts it in there. Okay. You know what I mean? Unless they don't want to cooperate with other agents, right? Unless they're FSBO or commercial listing that doesn't cooperate.
Okay. So my misunderstanding. So we're all connected to realtor.ca. Most people are going to Google realtor.ca is going to be one of the primary ones that comes up. Maybe it's an agent site like mine, if you're advertising PPC and stuff. Lead comes in. For us, we have a 5-minute speed to lead on our team. So we're phoning, texting, emails, first day, second day, all through day 10. And so we're really good at, engagement and follow up with our clients. And then it's a matter of having them into the office, talking about agency, doing a qualifying conversation. And we, one of the ninja skills that we have, Pat, is, we're just, like you said, we're great conversationalists. It's one of the things that I coach my team on each day at 11 o'clock. From 11 to 12, we talk about ways of qualifying people, ways of uncovering need, ways of providing value. And a lot of that just comes from having a great conversation and being able to empathize and understand and then serve, right? So that's a big part of what we're doing. And then getting out there, seeing houses, writing offers. And then, we don't have escrow in the same way that you do, but we do have a deposit in the same way that you do. So say I'm a buyer and I've got maybe $20,000 saved up. There's a minimum down payment requirement in Canada of putting down 5%. There's really...
Wait a minute. Okay. So I buy a house. Right? I got to put down 5% with the real estate agent. That's it. Like, there's no exception to
that. It doesn't come to the real estate agent necessarily. No. What I'm saying is that when you go get pre-qualified at your bank, they're saying you got to have 5% saved up.
Oh, okay. You got to have 5%. So you can't get a loan for less than 5% down.
Yeah, 95% financing is
95% is the riskiest financing you can get. And tell me about the banks, right? Because it's not like in the U.S. There's millions of different banks, right? Canada's a lot different than that, right?
It is, yeah. There's like 50 kind of national institutions that we can generally get mortgage loans through. We generally use mortgage brokers so they can float those.
And what is a national institution? What does that mean? Like
so you got to be registered. Yeah, you got to be registered with the what is it called? The Office of the Superintendent of Financial Institutions. So you have to have all the credentials and all this. So it's you're right, man. One of the things that we notice traveling in the States is how many different types of regional banks there are. That's a fairly unusual thing. We have like the odd credit union. Or like a treasury branch that are like actually owned by the users. But for the most part, we don't have as much of that as the States. I would say kind of like 10%. So you fill out your application to your mortgage broker, and they float it out to say one of these 50 big banks or whatever, and they have to abide by these national rules. And I'll tell you about them because they're just mental, and they came out in the last 3 years. And if I sound wound up by them, you'll know why. So in October of 2016, there was a lot of inflation in two markets, Toronto and Vancouver. Like prices were going up pretty dramatically, like double digits each year for sure. And there was some threat of foreign investment being the driver before that of those prices. And so what the government did is they said, okay, listen, we're going to put in something called the stress test. And we're going to say, hey, listen, if you can go to a bank and get a mortgage loan for 3% based on your credit, your down payment, your income, and your debt, maybe you can buy a $400,000 house with your 5% down payment. You now have to qualify at 4%. Now, you don't have to pay 4%, but you got to qualify at 4%. So that immediately reduced your buying power by 18%. Okay, so now a $400,000, well, let's make the math easier. A $500,000 buyer with 5% down in one day went to buying a $400,000 house. And so you can imagine what that did to our first-time home buyers and what that did for those properties that were now unable to be sold, right? And then in their infinite wisdom, rather than address these regional issues like in central Ontario and the West Coast, they came out in January of 2018 and said, okay, wait. We really like that first phase. We'll call it phase one. There's a phase two now, and it applies everywhere. So no matter if you're borrowing 95% or 50% or 20%, everybody's going to qualify for a percent above what the bank gives them. And so every single person across this entire country now had their pre-approval limits dropped by 18%, again, just overnight, just like that. And so what that really meant, and what we're still seeing play out in our market, is that, you would think that, if you could only think of it from the first-time home buyer's perspective, it took a bunch of those people out, right? But then if you can imagine a family that bought a $400,000 house 4 years ago, they've got some equity built, they now want to go out and buy their $600,000 forever home. And guess what they qualify for? A $475,000 house. Now, do you think they're going to sell their $400,000 house now that the market's come down and move up, 50 grand? No way, man. They can't afford to, for one, because they're not getting substantially more house, and there's no buyers for their house here at the 400 range either. So actually their value's gone down because the people here that are coming in as the first-time home buyers can't afford to pay what they would have paid 3 years ago.
So it actually
either.
made everyone's house value go down.
Oh, dude, Pat, in the 10 years that I've been in real estate, I haven't seen a seller's market, man. I've been at this since 2008. We have yet to see real.
Did it happen as soon as this new law came out?
Oh, of course, man. It was like overnight.
So what happened? And all of a sudden you have all these listings, right? And things are selling. You gave them advice, price it here. It's going to take X amount of days to sell. Overnight, they make these changes. The next day, showings dry up. They call you up, Courtney, what's going on? Where's everybody? You just blame it on the government. You're like, hey, these people just can't afford your house anymore. The only people that can afford your house, we're looking at, your house is listed at 400. They were looking at 450s. So they're all excited, expecting pools and garages. And then now they have to look at houses without garages and pools. And they're just like, screw it, I'm not going to buy. And then all these buyers are just void of the market is just void of these buyers. So what happened?
Well, man, all those things happen, but how you manage it is really where the beauty's at. And I want to tell you that my business has grown every year, and we've been market leaders in managing the communication and helping people understand what's happened, and also reestablishing reasonable expectations. And for sure, some of that means that listings go away. For sure, it means price reductions. For sure, it means buyers dry up. For sure, it means the cost of lead acquisition goes up, right? Like all those things happen. But one of the things that I would say that it's done for us from a business standpoint is that it's really caused us to get super finicky about our processes, our people, and how we serve. Because, at the end of the day, if you're going to operate in a market that now has, 12 or 15% fewer transactions, you really got to be the best. Like you really got to offer such a high level of service in an environment that's so risky that you're the one call, right? And we've really spent a lot of money and a lot of effort trying to establish ourselves as the primary source for need in a really, really challenging market. And so we've done really well with that without commission compression, at least from a company standpoint.
So has the agent pool dropped?
Not dramatically. As a matter of fact, I mean, there's some other compounding things. The agent pool has actually increased, but I would attribute that to the fact that so much other employment has dried up. Okay, so those people would lose their jobs here or there. We've had terrible unemployment in Alberta for a very long time, and I would say that a lot of those people were drawn to real estate because of the efforts of teams like mine, where agents are starting and making $100,000 their first year. Well, they're thinking, okay, well, they're making that look easy. Let's go get a real estate license and sell, right?
Yeah. Okay. So here's what I want to talk to you before we get off banks here and stuff. So the foreclosure process is a lot different in Canada. Like in the U.S., as everybody knows, there are people and have been people that have milked the foreclosure process up to 5 years. They can live in a house, without paying the mortgage. Now that's not true. That's an anomaly, but it's usually 2 years or so. Before you get kicked out. Well, how's it work there?
Not typically like that. Typically, it's about 3 months before the bank's going to intervene and have you talk to a trustee. But we don't see a lot of foreclosures here, even during this time, Pat, with the terrible economy in Alberta due to oil and all kinds of other things. We really haven't seen a tremendous amount of foreclosures.
You think that's because it's fairly conservative? Do you know, you explained how, you got to qualify for 1% more, but I'm betting that it's harder to qualify to begin with.
Oh yeah.
US, we might use 40% of the income, up to 50% of the income or whatever. The banks try to stretch it to for you, but 30. But whatever. What do you guys use your ratios
for LTV or for
for qualifying? Do you know?
TDSR, yeah. Total debt service ratio has to be under 40%. Most banks want it to be around 35%. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, okay. So it's straightforward. Okay. So 3 months you don't pay, boom, you're out, right?
Yeah, it's a little bit more complex than that, but for the most part, yeah. And but the main difference, Pat, between how it's done in the U.S. and how it's done in Canada is that these properties can't be sold below market value. Okay. So first thing that happens is there's an appraisal that's going to happen on the property. And then generally, regardless of where it happens in process, if it's at the courts or if it's at the bank or if it's with CMHC, our Canadian Mortgage and Housing Corporation, they're one of the primary insurers of mortgages in Canada. Depending on what level it's at, they're still going to be selling the property at market value. Or what their perception of market value is. So they'll, randomly choose a realtor to represent the property, and they'll leave it on the market. They're not invested in how many days. There's no short sale process. There's no negotiating any of that. It's like, hey, here's what the property is going to sell for, and if you don't like it, that's okay. We'll wait. 10 months, doesn't matter. And then they'll lower the price, and then it'll eventually sell, and that kind of determines what that person's future credit looks like. If there is no equity, well, then they're upside down anyways. But if there's a bit of equity, then some of that debt will get paid out and they'll still be in bankruptcy. But, that's maybe not as terrible here as it is in some places. 7 years and you're back on your feet again. And sometimes at 3 or 4, you can find people to kind of help you out with a mortgage. So, but again, not a lot of that. And none of the stuff where you're at the courtroom steps, bidding on a house for 10 grand when it should sell for 30 or 40. Like, dude, if they were like that, I'd own them all,
Do the math. It's worth every single dollar. That's a title of a comment that I got on my certified listing agent course from Rebus University. It's from Bill Reeg. This is what Bill says. Bill says, looking to take your listing presentation to the next level? I've closed 100 appointments since I took Pat's certified listing agent course. 5 appointments, 5 new clients, 60 days. Boom, do the math. It's worth every single dollar. Thanks, Bill. But listen, guys, I am offering this to you if you haven't already taken it, because so many brokers and teams make their agents take it before they do a single listing appointment. But if you haven't taken it, you can go to rebusuniversity.com and get it now. Now, here's the thing. For 30 days, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you that course. I'm going to give you the buyer agent course, which teaches you how to close every single serious buyer that calls on the phone or emails. The certified team agent course is taught by Jeff Cohn, one of America's top agents, on how to build a team from zero to hero to hundreds and hundreds of units every year, step by step. It's like a 12-hour course, plus 7 other courses. Yes, you heard that right. all for a measly $127 a month. If you were to go to Rebus University and buy these courses individually, it costs you over $10,000. But today, if you go to futureofrealestatetraining.com, that's futureofrealestatetraining.com, you'll learn what Bill Reed did, which is how to close 100% of the listing appointments you go on. Quite impressive. And you'll learn all the other incredible details provided in the 11 5-star courses that are offered. Yeah, it's like all you can eat bazaar. You go in now and you pay $127 a month. If you can eat all 11 courses in 1 month, that's all you pay is $197. This is a bargain, guys. Get it now. Futureofrealestatetraining.com.
Hey, real estate rockstars, this is Pat Hyben, and before we jump back into today's content, I want to tell you about an extraordinary offer from an extraordinary company. I'm talking about My Outdesk. If you haven't heard of My Outdesk, basically they're a virtual assistant company, a VA company that specializes in virtual assistants for real estate agents. Yeah, I'm talking about transaction coordinators, marketing assistants. I'm talking about ISAs, inside sales agents that prospect thousands and thousands of seller leads and buyer lead follow-ups. I mean, these guys are trained in this stuff specifically. You're not using a company that doesn't know or understand real estate sales. 4 out of 5 of the top teams in the US use My Outdesk for their virtual assistants. And because I know the owner, Daniel Ramsey, I've known him for over a decade, and I know how awesome and incredible this company is and how it saves agents thousands and thousands of dollars every single week and makes them thousands and thousands of more every single week, we're going to give you a $400 coupon off of your first month of a virtual assistant and give you a free book entitled Scaling Your Business with Virtual Professionals. So you can read it and look into it before you decide anything. It's called Scaling Your Business with Virtual Professionals. And you can get it real easy. All you got to do is text the word Hyben, H-I-B-A-N, to 31996. That's H-I-B-A-N to 31996. And download your free book, Scaling Your Business with Virtual Professionals. And don't forget to mention also that you get a $400 discount, which will give you a coupon for that when you download the book. Thank you, guys, and I hope you enjoy and make a ton of money using My Outdesk. Yeah, so the banks aren't the banks aren't giving them away, basically, and that's good for the market, right? Because you don't have.
Oh.
Part of the reason that all these flip companies, Open Door, OfferPad, Zillow, the whole iBuyer craze has happened is because you could literally have 2 houses that are identical and one is a piece of crap and the other's massively fixed up, and there's a huge delta between the 2. But it sounds like that doesn't happen there, right? I mean, you're kicked out so fast, you're not going to let it go to shit, and there won't be this big delta in the.
Well, there's a little bit of that, but I mean, for the most part, when we're looking at comparables, we can trust the market. Like a comparable is a comparable. We know that it's been well vetted, right? So that's a pretty cool thing. But it also means that I've tried a couple of flips, man. I can tell you that it ain't easy to make money. Like I've heard lots of stories from friends, guys that have been on your show that do great at that. And yeah, when you're in a seller's market and prices are going to go up and it favors time. Heck yeah, but we're in a place where, you bought this house for $200,000. It might be worth $190 in 6 months, and you're trying to make $20,000 on it. That's not going to look so good, man. You better buy them for, 70 cents on the dollar. Well, where do those properties even exist in a market like ours? They really just don't, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So what I'm getting is no iBuyer phenomena really at all. No, no outside consumer MLS like Zillow, Realtor.com, Trulia, Redfin really competing. Just one, Realtor.co, which is probably related to NAR, Realtor.com. Just one, and very conservative mortgages, so you don't have a lot of risky loans, and people that shouldn't be buying houses are renting, right? Rather than the government trying to push them into first-time homebuyer deals when they probably shouldn't be renting in the first place. So what else? What else? Talk about the title. You know, how is the title any different, or the process of that happens between when you buy and when you settle?
Yeah, so across Canada, we use attorneys to close real estate transactions. So, generally speaking, the brokerage will hold the deposit fund. So say you're putting $10,000 down as a deposit or $10,000 towards your mortgage. You might put $1,000, $5,000 of that, as I think you call it earnest money. In the States, we call it deposit money in Canada. And then the rest would be delivered to your lawyer at closing. So, you write the offer, it's accepted, you get conditions, they come off. And then at that time, all the documentation goes to the lawyer. The lawyer seeks mortgage instructions from the bank that you're dealing with. They figure out the math between what you've put down as a deposit and what you're putting down as your down payment. They tell you to bring a check in for that amount. And then the deal goes ahead and closes on possession day at your lawyer's office. But generally speaking, they're at the real estate brokerage picking up their keys, and we're doing a walkthrough to make sure everything at the property is in good condition.
Interesting. Okay, so let's go to commission, because that's what people want to hear, right? How do you guys do your commissions? Is it who pays it? All that stuff. Just tell me.
Yeah, you bet. In Canada, it's generally accepted that the commissions are charged to the seller side, much the same as it is in the States, although this class action against NAR may change that for you guys. But yeah, we're generally across Canada about 4%, Pat, and that's one of the reasons why we're not so attractive to a company like Zillow or iBuy or whoever. Now, even Amazon, now they're in the game. Who knows how they're going to expand their position in the real estate business? But essentially, what these companies have done, rightfully, I think, is taking the middle out of the market. Right? They're saying, hey, listen, there's enough juice in here. We can do the same deal, for probably 3%. And still make a 10% margin or a 12% margin or whatever by amalgamating all these services. And with billions of dollars of investor capital, we can just eliminate these other people. And for us in Canada, when you're already at 4%, yeah, maybe they could do it a little bit cheaper, but is it worthwhile, especially when you're regionally distributed so much? Like, there's only a couple centers in Canada that have 1 million population, Toronto, Vancouver, and Calgary. That's really it. And so are they going to invest all the resources to come here to maybe make, a fraction of the money that they could make if they just go to Austin and hang out there for the next 5 years while that market continues to take off and there's 6% commission on $600,000 houses? Well, hey, listen, man, like, I want to be in that market too. Trust me.
Yeah, that's interesting. So it's a 4% and you have 2% usually co-op.
Yeah.
Is that what the co-op is? 2%?
That's average for sure. Yeah.
That's average.
That's right.
So what would happen if if a company came to town and they started co-oping 1% instead of 2%?
Yeah, and that happens. I mean, in every market, there's always going to be discount brokerage, and there's always going to be premium.
They would still show up on Realtor.co, which everybody uses because it's a monopoly, right? To search for houses if you co-opt 1%, right?
That's right. They would still show up. There's no bias against them. From a technological standpoint, there's no consumer transparency. I mean, they technically offer $1. There does have to be a commission offered, but it can be $1, right? In those cases, we address that with, at least on my team, and this isn't an industry standard by any stretch. It's a common issue, if you will, from a lot of buyer's agents who are inexperienced all across the country. But how we manage that is we establish a really firm value proposition in our first meetings with our clients. And we say, hey, listen, like, these are all the things that we're going to do for you. Here's our track record of success. And there may come a time where we ask you that you're going to have to make up some commission. If this is a 1% deal, we may say, hey, at the closing table, when you go to meet with your lawyer, they may ask you for an extra $2,000, $3,000, just so you're aware. But that just levels out the playing field. It makes everything apples to apples, just so you're aware. It's really just a matter of, are these funds coming from your mortgage or are they coming from your down payment? That's the same to you. And when we explain it that way, there's really no issues. And the primary thing I think it does, one thing, it makes sure that our agents are compensated fairly for their level of professionalism. And that happens because we're able to serve our clients at such a high level by saying to them, hey, listen, we're not going to be negatively biased against this property or that property. We're going to show you every property, and we're going to level out the playing field for you, both in terms of the properties that you would like to see and the commission that they'll offer. And so it really just takes that risk away. We haven't had any issues with that at all.
Oh, that's great. And what do you have agency? Like in the States, you have buyer agency, seller agency, dual agency. Do you have all that?
We do, yeah. We're still fortunate enough that we have dual agency opportunity in the province of Alberta. BC just got rid of that. British Columbia, the government came in and said they can't have dual agency anymore.
Okay, wait a minute. So let's slow this down. The entire province of British Columbia, right? Which is, what are there, 7? How many provinces? There's 12?
12, I think, in there.
12,
Yeah.
12. So, a large section of Canada came in and said, you can't sell your own listings.
That's correct. One of the things that was happening, Pat, particularly in Vancouver, and keep in mind that their average house price was already, say, $800,000. Okay, so the most expensive real estate in Canada. They're a bit landlocked because of mountains and ocean. There's a lot of foreign investment. Okay, so back in the days when Chinese investors could get their money out of the country easily, cash, okay, and bring it here, what would happen is, these people from these unethical brokerages, they would just go door knock and they'd say, hey, I'll give you $800,000 for your house. They'd go back to the office, they'd sell that contract to a colleague for $850, right? Take a commission there. They'd sell that contract to another colleague for $900, then sell that contract for $950. It's called shadow flipping, right? And so that went on for about a year, possibly 2 years. The government caught on to it. There was not a lot of brokerages, but there was a handful of brokerages that were doing that kind of unethical behavior. And they said, okay, they just shut the entire province down. They said, yeah, no dual agency. So they've mandated now that that conversation about agency has to happen within minutes of engaging someone. They literally want you to pull out paperwork in the first conversation. And this is the most interesting part. They've literally hired 11 auditors to spot audit. So they've got staff now that'll actually pretend to be buyers and sellers to see if they can catch you not doing it.
Okay, so let me get this straight. So you're essentially having to decide whether you're going to be a listing agent or a buyer agent, I guess, on some level, which is very similar to, you could say that's how it is now in the States and your other provinces, but it's really not as cold and hard as what they've done here in BC. So, and what they do in Europe and a lot of other places where the commissions are decoupled, where you obviously have a buyer agent because you're paying them yourself. But let me go to British Columbia. So I'm a seller. I'm an agent. I have a listing. Somebody comes to my open house that I'm holding, and they're like, I'll take it.
Yeah. Before that happens, you got to have a conversation about agency, and you're going to have to refer that person out.
You refer them. Are you allowed to make a referral fee from it, or are you giving the entire 2% out to somebody else?
From what I understand, and like I say, I don't operate there. They found a way that makes the legislator happy and that makes the agents not so angry. I can't tell you what that is.
Yeah, well, that's interesting. Yeah, because really, technically, they shouldn't be able to get a referral fee because then you are kind of tied, right? It's a conflict inherently right there as soon as you're getting part of the commission.
That's right.
And then you just have to get a relationship with another agent. We're like, dude, I'm going to give you, my buyers, and then you're going to give me a solid and give me yours too.
Yeah, I think that's probably how it works, right? Where, you just detach yourself from the client, you find a partner, and then somebody that does similar volume to you, and you just have reciprocal relationships.
But can you be from the same office, just not the same physical agent?
That's what I understand. Yeah, it can be from the same office, not from the same agent.
So the company could still make money on it. It's just that the agent can't.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you have to be at a designated agency brokerage, but yeah, that just means that you've got to have some additional levels of security around your filing and around your photocopier and that sort of thing. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So what else would you say is different than, the United States, would you say, as far as what your real estate sales world is like there? Anything else pop up?
Well, I can speak to running a business here. I'm part of a number of masterminds, and I've been coached by lots of people who've operated in the States. And I think one of the biggest differences just relates to, first of all, I think general education. It seems to me, just based on what I've been able to put together, that the level of education that a consumer has in our market, at least, or in Canada, is greater. So we find people really, really understand the process quite a bit. They've already done research and found lots of information online. And so when we show up, the come list me's or the people that are just, prepared to sign whatever you put in front of them, they don't really exist. Secondly, with with our markets being generally what they are across the country, I mean, for the most part, we're either like balanced or buyers markets. We haven't seen a lot of flipping. We haven't seen a lot of investor buying from a flip standpoint. But I mean, from those who have long-term money to buy and hold rentals, it's still a decent time to do that. But the business model of operating a team in Canada isn't so flush with cash that we can have, like, you know, ISA teams and showing partners and a lot of these newfangled things that have come out in the past couple of years. Like, there's just not enough meat on the bone to be able to have that many people in your organization, or like a transaction coordinator for every 3 people in your business or whatever. I mean, so we've really gotten very efficient with how our organization runs. And frankly, I have to tell you, in the time that we haven't spoken, Pat, I mean, sure, my team's grown probably maybe 5-fold in that time, 3-fold for sure.
Wow.
But the key thing that's facilitated that is just a level of discipline and follow-up. And I know, you know, one of the things that your listeners like to hear is like, well, hey, how do you do that many transactions? And, you know, and everybody's making really, really good money on your team. There's no kind of like part-timers and stuff. And it's like, you know what? We just have a lot of mad discipline. Like, you know, we all know this book. I've got 2 copies here in my office. It's called The 4 Disciplines of Execution. Each morning we get on the phone, we talk about our deliverables. We know how many phone calls we got to make. We know how much prospecting we got to do. We know how many appointments we got to make, because we measure our lead measures and our lag measures daily. We have team meetings every Wednesday. We talk about how everybody's doing. We hold one another accountable. We have crucial conversations around things that are tough. You know, we have a policy in our office where if you claim a lead, you're committing to phoning, texting, and emailing that person every day for the next 10 days. And if you don't do that and don't have record of it, the team is just going to take you off of leads for a week. We want to make sure that every team member has equal opportunity, because we owe a fiduciary obligation to our clients who've engaged with us and trusted us with our system to freaking deliver this thing, man. And so if somebody's dropping the ball along the way, that person ought not to be taking more leads. They ought to be spending more time on the leads they already got. And so it's just a level of discipline that I think has been brought on by a forced, maybe lack of revenue, if you will, or squeezed margins, to say, hey, we got to do more with what we got. We can't.
Extreme accountability, right? It's like a Canadian mortgage, right? You pay, you stay. You don't, you won't, right? You know,
That's right.
You call 10 days or you're out. I mean, that's exactly what it is. That's amazing. And then you guys have any special laws regarding calling? Like, you know, we have a do not call list. We have, you know, some jurisdictions in the States, they don't allow calling expired listings. I mean, what are your rules there?
There's not a place in Canada where you can call an expired listing, Pat. And a lot of the FSBOs now are registered.
That's against the rule.
Yeah, you can't call an expired.
You just can't call expired. So no one even does that. Yeah.
No, you can't. You can't call them. You can't prospect them. You can't door knock them. You can't do anything with expireds anywhere in Canada. You think about this for a second. Oh yeah, even a lot of the FSBOs now, they're on the MLS. They're unrepresented, but even when they're on the MLS, you're not supposed to call them either.
Wait a minute, and they get on the MLS. But they got to co-op something. So they co-op $1. How's that work? You're a FSBO. You're not co-oping.
They co-op $1.
Holy dirt! So a FSBO can get on the MLS and co-op $1.
Yeah, there's brokerages that'll take a flat fee from you, say $600 or whatever. They'll get on the MLS, they'll co-op $1, but to the consumer, it's absolutely transparent, right?
They don't see it. Yeah, they don't know. Right. They don't know that. They don't care. They just see a picture of the house.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so that's a little bit different. Yeah, and the DNC list isn't dissimilar from where you're at, Pat. I mean, you know, we have speed dialers, triple line dialers, and all that as well. We can use them, but you just got to scrub your list against the DNC list, right? Yeah.
Okay, so that's similar. All right.
And I have to say, man, I mean, I love the States, because I know you can get cell phone lists and all this stuff down there. I mean, you can't get a cell phone list in Canada. Like,
I don't know how to get one, but people that come on the show have gotten them, and I'll tell you what. To me, as a consumer, I'm like, you know, that's annoying as hell. Really, you know. I guess it was annoying when they called into your house and it came into your mind like, well, I should know better because, you know, I get spammed all the time. But now it's like cell phones have been so sacred until now, right? Now I'm getting spammed all the time. For funny thing is, my wife gets spammed like 20 times as much as I do. I don't know why, but you know.
It's true though. I mean, like there's tons of brokerages out there that have those lists, man. It's just, you know, you need numbers to dial, right? And you know, you'll hit a certain percentage of whatever numbers you get, right?
Yeah. Crazy. Well, this has been awesome, Courtney. I appreciate you coming back on and sharing all this because, you know, I think a lot of people just assume it's very similar and it is very different. It's similar, but it's very different in many ways. So let's talk about your free gift. Everybody that comes on the show brings a free gift. What do you bring for everybody today, Courtney?
I didn't bring anything back because I was debating whether or not you'd already have something like this. So so I'll tell you what I'm bringing and you tell me if it's something you already have. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, cool. All
right. So we've recently implemented a pod system, or some people call them squad systems, right? Where we have squad leaders, and it's just one of the ways that we can provide a greater level of value to our team members. They get more regular coaching, more regular meetings than they can get from me. Obviously, I'm busy and I don't want to be distracted or give the impression that I don't value what they're doing. And so in doing so, we've created a level of structure and accountability for those squad leaders and certain deliverables that they have to meet each and every week. And so I've just about got that fleshed out. As a matter of fact, I was working on it with my squad leaders last night, but it's just about done. Is that something that you have, Pat? Is that something?
No, I'd love that, man. I would love if you could give me a copy of that, guys. And I'm going to put it on hibandigital.com / Courtney Atkinson, and the number 2, because this is his second time on. That's hibandigital.com, Courtney Atkinson, and it's COURTNEY, Atkinson, ATKINSON, right?
Yes, sir. You got it, Pat. That's right.
All right. And the number 2, and in his squad format sheet will be on there for, I don't know what it's called yet, but I'll promise to put it on there, and I'm going to put all of Courtney's information. If you want to reach out to him, you want to send him a referral out that way, anything you want, his social media links will be there so you can follow him. Courtney, this has been a blast, buddy. I really appreciate you coming on. Oh, and before I hang up, guys, if you are driving down the road, you could always get Courtney's sheet too in the Agent Success Toolbox, which is hibandigital.com /toolbox, or just text the word toolbox to 444-999. Courtney, thank you so much.
Pat, thank you so much. Thanks for having me on. I love this show. It's such a great resource. And man, if I had this 10 years ago, Pat, I really would have listened to every episode, and I could have saved 5 years minimum. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
All right, man. Peace.
I want you to think about the word toolbox. What is a toolbox? A toolbox is a box full of tools that you use to build something great. At Real Estate Rockstars, we've created our own free toolbox. So everybody that comes on the show as a guest brings a tool with them, and we plow them all into this toolbox, and we give it away for our viewing audience to basically use as they wish. Everything we put in there is an actionable item that can be downloaded, can be printed, can be used immediately. And we got things like scripts and dialogues, checklists for teams, checklists to keep agents accountable, referral forms that are filled out at settlement to get referrals by your buyers and sellers. Everything you could think of that you could use on a regular basis about real estate is included in this toolbox, and it's helping agents worldwide sell more houses and make their jobs a lot easier and processes much more efficient. And the thing is, it's absolutely free. All you got to do is go to hibandigital.com /toolbox, or text the word toolbox to 444-999. That's toolbox 444-999. Do it now.
Rockstar Nation, thank you for listening to Real Estate Rockstars. Listen, I need a favor. If you find this free content helpful, if you find our downloadable items from each guest helpful, please, I need you to pull out your pointing finger. Yes, the one finger that points at people, and hit subscribe. Yes, subscribe. The more subscribers we get, the better we look in the ratings, and the easier it is to get guests like Robert Kiyosaki, Barbara Corcoran, all the players that are on $1 million listing in the different cities. All that stuff makes it easier the more subscribers we get, so please subscribe. And listen, there's a lot of places you can leave comments. There's a lot of places you can like. We're on Facebook. We have an Instagram page. Instagram page is I am Pat Hyben. The Facebook is Real Estate Rockstars Radio. Feel free to leave us comments there. The most popular form of commenting seems to happen on YouTube. Yes, for whatever reason, it's a very open environment. So just go to YouTube and go to Real Estate Rockstars Radio. Leave us comments there. Some of them we will read on the show. We love your feedback. So thanks, guys, and I hope you are having a great day. Oh, and also, listen, if you're going to subscribe and you haven't already left a review on iTunes, please do that too. Have a great day, and thanks so much, Rockstar Nation. I really appreciate you.